I know this might sound kind of weak as of now, so we can just immediately get into questions. Alright, so our first question is about the value of personal information, and we are given the probabilities and the possible profits at each condition and for each project. Now, using this formula, we should first find what is our EV without perfect information. Without perfect information, you don't know which of these conditions can actually happen. So the way you calculate the economic profit is the $80 profit, the profit at each condition, multiplied by the probability that the condition will actually happen. So in this case, for project 1, the expected value will then be 80 times 0.2 plus 50 times 0.4 plus negative 5 times 0.4, which gives you an expected profit of 34,000. Whereas for project 2, that will be 60 times 0.2 plus 25 times 0.4 plus $10,000 times 0.4, which gives you $26,000. So without perfect information, if you are given these two figures, right, like this is your two possible expected profits, then of course logically you will pick the one with the higher expected value. You will go with project 1. So that will be your EV without perfect information. But if you have perfect information, the easy way to think about this is that, okay, if I know what demand will occur, then I will know which project to choose. So if I know that it will be strong demand, then I will go with project 1. I will go with 80,000, and the chances of that happening is 0.2. If I know demand will be moderate, then again, I will go with project 1. The chances of that happening is 30,000 times 0.4. And then if I know demand will be weak, then I will go instead with project 2, which gives me 0.4 times $10,000. So basically, if you're trying to find what is EV with perfect information, then at each condition, you're trying to choose, okay, if I know that this condition will happen, which of the profit outcomes will I choose? And then you multiply that by the chances of that outcome actually happening, which gives you this equation, this expression. And the total of that will then be $40. So your EV with perfect information is $40, and your EV without perfect information is $34, right? Which means that information has allowed you to get $6,000 more profits. But then you're also given the information that in order to obtain that information, you need to pay $4,500. So your profit can be increased by this much, but you also need to pay $4,500 to obtain that information, which gives you $1,500. This then becomes the value of the perfect information. And that's basically how you do this kind of questions. All right, and this next one is where they're trying to ask you which decision will you make based on the minimax regret decision. The easy way to remember this is like, let's say at the condition of this first condition, best possible demand, and then you choose to give the price P1, which gives you this much profit. But it's like, if you look at all the other choices, then you might think, oh, if I actually set the price to be P3, I could have gotten more profit. I could have gotten 2,000 more profit, which means your regret then under P1 is 2,000. For P2, it'll be 500. It's 0 for P3, of course, because it's the highest possible profit you can get at that demand condition. And from P4, again, it's 500. So like what I said earlier, for Minimax, basically, it's like for each of these demand conditions, try to find what is the highest returns you can get. And then find the difference between that highest return with all the other returns. The discrepancy is then the regret, you can say. So for the most likely demand, your regret will be 4,000, 0, 1,000, and 1,750. So now that you have all of these regret figures, remember that under Minimax, you're trying to find which one has the lowest maximum regret. By this, I mean, let's say for each price, right? If demand is this demand, then you will regret by this much. If demand is like the second level, you will regret by this much. So at each price level, there's a different amount of regret you might have. But then the goal is, out of all those possible regrets that each price level would have, which one is the lowest. So we can see that for price 1 to price 4, the highest regret are these ones. And so of course, you're trying to pick the one with the lowest maximum regret. In this case, that would be price 2. So your answer is price 2. That gives you the lowest regret. Alright, and this next one is about the Maximin decision rule. So because what they're asking for is for Maximin, like what is the highest profit possible at the worst possible condition? So let's look at the worst possible cases, which is at this row. So we can see that because they've also given us what are the contributions. So for price P1 at the worst possible condition, then your total contribution will be 18,000. For price P2, it will be 17,500 and then 16,000 and 13,500. So what this basically shows us is at the worst possible case, what is the price that can give you the highest answer? And so that would be price P1.